I grew up on the farm, and my grandfather and mother lived in one house and my parents lived in another, and my father was an only child. So I had a very close relationship with my grandfather, who was a very generous human being. Community involvement was just sort of part and parcel of growing up in our house. I never thought twice about it. I mean, that's just what you did. I hadn't realized until many, many, many years later how poor I was, but because frankly I had a very rich life. I mean, it was a great life. Can't imagine a better childhood. I was very lucky at a very young age. I was in law school here, and after a year in law school I had an opportunity to go to Chicago for a year to learn a community development approach, which was kind of a blend of a self-help approach, but allowing people to help themselves. So it focused on training people to think through and working with people to think through what they needed to do the development, and then providing them the tools and support to do that, but really leaving the initiative in their hands. And at the end of my year, where because I was not able to work, I actually volunteered in a preschool, taught preschool for a year in an inner city, all-black neighborhood in Chicago. I was one of 20 or 30 white people living in this black neighborhood. At the end of my year, I was going to come back and go back to law school here. And I was asked if I'd go to India for 4 months to be part of a team who were doing training programs for people engaged in village development. So I did that and was lucky enough to live in India for 7 years. But living in the villages really was the most profound education, and gave me obviously a great respect for people, but also dramatically demonstrated that what motivates people is not money. It's very much, having a vision of a future and a role that you can see yourself playing in that. But it was undoubtedly the best time of my life, and the time I learned the true respect and dignity that everybody can have, irregardless of their economic well-being. The great thing about the village dynamic is that you get to interact with everybody, and there's a meaningful role for everybody in the village, from the youngest to the oldest, and we kind of lose that in Western society. It's really fundamental common sense that economic prosperity, social well-being, and social health, and environmental health are so interlocked, and if what we're about is improving the overall quality of life, you can't improve it in one area at the expense of the other, obviously. And so I think it is, part of what we have here in South Australia, and what makes us continually show up on these lists of one of the most livable places in the world, is that we already have, relatively speaking, an awareness and good balance in these three, and it's important we not lose that. Often people describe, say, people with environmental concerns as being in conflict with business. Well, I don't see it that way, frankly.